Slightly over 3 months since the outbreak of coronavirus, the world is now characterized by halted global supply chain, shut down outlets, empty streets, disruption of the job market, and little to no demand of non-essential goods. What are some of the economic ramifications of COVID-19 closer home? Hello there, and welcome to Metropole Debrief. My name is Ndiro Oganga.
The COVID-19 have totally affected the business in K Restaurant. I am the manager of the K Restaurant Hotel. And from the time it started, there were some glimpses of business, but so far it has just gone down. Through the press release yesterday, the CS, Mr. Kagwe, about the restaurants and bars, we are totally affected. There are no businesses. These are places when you come in the morning, it's full with people. Those who are taking tea, those who are also having their early meals, and those who are having also some little drinks in the morning as it's going on. It's totally down. So currently we've just opened purely on the takeaways as directed by the CS Kagwe. Nothing more. People come in, they only come like we only have one client who've come. Is getting sanitized, getting in to ask for whatever to be given then, anarudi. Anapewa chakula in takeaway, wanaenda. So basically there is no business at all.
Well, hospitality is just one of the sectors that has been hit hard among other sectors. Now, governments across the world are trying to come up with different economic stimulus packages to ensure that businesses remain afloat. Let's go through some of the different economic stimulus packages that different countries have had to adopt to stay afloat. Let's begin with the United States of America, the world's superpower. On the 25th of March 2020, the Senate approved a record $2 trillion economic stimulus package. The package had been expected to include $500 billion fund to help hard-hit industries. This include manufacturing, they include hospitality, transport. So those are some of the sectors that were to be bailed out. A comparable amount for direct payments of up to 300 million Kenya shillings for millions of families, rather 300,000 for millions of families that were suffering because of the ramifications of COVID-19. Now you remember, because of COVID-19, some families have lost their jobs and have no way of keeping up with the bills, water, electricity, and even food. So the United States government will be giving each family 300,000 to ensure that they are not swallowed alive by the COVID-19 economic ramifications. Now, what is in it for SMEs, small and medium enterprises? A sum of 350 billion USD is for small business loans. So businesses like the one we've just seen, if they were in America, they would have had access to this money. An extra 250 billion for expanded unemployment aid and 75 billion US dollar for hospitals. The stimulus package aims to cushion the economic blow from a pandemic that has killed more than 660 people in the United States when we received this data, and now the number has really risen and sickened more than 50,000, which has risen up to over 100,000, and it has shattered thousands of business which have been thrown out of work and led to states to order 100 million people, nearly a third of the population, to stay at home. So 100 million people in America are staying at home because of COVID-19. Businesses are shutting down, and the government released $2 trillion to help keep the economy afloat. That is America. What are other countries doing? Let's take a look at Europe, and we'll use France as our case study. On the 17th of March 2020, France, through its president Emmanuel Macron, said it is suspending rent and utility bills owed by small companies due to coronavirus pandemic. Now, what are some of these utility bills? That's water, electricity, and even rent arrears. Further, for small businesses, the Internal Revenue Service has announced that on April 15th, yearly tax deadline will be suspended for 3 months to July 15th to deal with the coronavirus outbreak. Now, pass-through entities and small businesses will have an extra 90 days to pay income taxes due up to 100 million Kenya shillings in tax, or then corporate filers would get the same length of time to pay amounts due up to 1 million Kenya shillings in taxes owed. Now, more recently, France also announced an economic stimulus package of 5.2 trillion Kenya shillings aid package for small businesses and other hard-hit sectors of the economy. The stimulus will mainly take the form of reduced social security contribution, unemployment benefit for people who've lost their jobs or being forced to take half of their pay cut or unpaid leave, and solidarity fund for the self-employed. Further, the government will guarantee bank loans up to 34 trillion Kenya shillings. So this means that small businesses with no collateral or little collateral can go to the bank and acquire a loan, and the government will be the guarantor, so they can easily access finance because the bank knows in case of anything they'll get their money back from the government. Let's move closer home and look at Rwanda, which was one of the very first countries to put up speedy measures in terms of mitigation of the spread of the virus and also an economic stimulus package. Now, the National Bank of Rwanda has issued a raft of measures to deal with the already existing impact of COVID-19 global pandemic on the local economy. It has set up 5.4 billion Kenya shillings facility to keep the banks open, thereby hopefully encourage them to lend to small and medium enterprises. The central bank has also reduced the reserve requirement ratio for commercial banks from 5% down to 4%. This is a 1% decrease. It means that banks now have more leeway to lend, since the money that must stay in vault is less than before. There is also zero charge on mobile money transfers and bank transactions for 3 months to enable people to make personal payments. So in Rwanda, if you want to make any mobile transaction or even a bank to mobile transaction, you will not be charged any amount, because the government understands that this is a time that they need high liquidity in the market. There needs to be cash flow, so they're creating enabling ways to enable the Rwandese transact and move their money. How about Kenya? What are some of the measures that we are taking? Well, the President Uhuru Kenyatta announced an economic stimulus package, which was received with mixed signals. Some were happy, some were not, some were impressed, some were not. But let's take a look at what was in it. Now, there's the reduction of income tax, that is a PAYE and resident income tax, corporation tax, from 30% to 25%. Now, for Kenyans earning a gross of 24,000, they get 100% tax relief. Reduction of value added tax from 16% to 14% effective 1st of April. So that's for Kenyans. How about for businesses? There's the reduction of the turnover tax from the current 3% to 1% for all small, medium, and micro enterprises. Ministries and departments to pay at least 13 billion of the verified pending bills within 3 weeks from the date the president announced the stimulus package. Further, Kenya Revenue Authority is supposed to expedite the payment of all verified VAT refund claims amounting to 10 billion Kenya shillings within 3 weeks, or in the alternative, allow offsetting of withholding VAT in order to improve cash flow for businesses. So this is the package that businesses will be getting lower. The government has instructed both ministries in the county to release pending bills, and we know many people in the counties are suppliers to the counties and national government, and these are small businesses that have had their money to a sum of 1 million, 5 million, 10 million held up in counties. So if this money is released, then the government is hoping there will be liquidity in the market. How about the Central Bank of Kenya? Has it followed the trend of the Central Bank of Rwanda? Now, the central bank rate lowered the benchmark lending rate by 1 percentage points to 7.25% from 8.25% to signal commercial banks to lower the interest rates to borrowers availing the much needed and affordable credit to MSMEs across the country. So this means that SMEs can go to the bank and borrow at a lower rate, that is 1%, or whatever rate any bank decides to give, just to ensure that businesses are able to stay afloat. They can take out loans and they can pay their workers, they can pay their rent as we sit out and wait for the COVID-19 pandemic to pass. That is the data that we had for you. However, from all this data, as the numbers sink in, we want to find out what is the effect of COVID-19 on small and medium enterprises. The economic stimulus package that the government has given, is it enough to keep the private sector and other sectors afloat to ensure that they can survive this wave of COVID-19? And beyond COVID-19, what are some of the recovery mechanisms that we should start thinking about and exploring to ensure that we don't go into a recession? Our guest, Carol Karuga, the CEO, Kenya Association of Private Sector Alliance, will be joining us after the break.